Have you ever watched someone accept a challenging opportunity and wondered, how do they have so much confidence? Now, it's easy to assume that confident people were simply born that way. We admire the leader who speaks with conviction, the employee who volunteers for a difficult assignment, or the entrepreneur who launches a new venture. And from a distance, confidence looks effortless. But if we could hear their inner conversation, you might discover something surprising. Many of the people we admire experience the same doubts and the fears and uncertainties that we do. The difference is not that they never feel afraid, it is that they have experienced an ability to move forward. And welcome to Coaching Talks, folks. And this is where we explore performance leadership and discover practical ways to become more effective in our careers, our organizations, and our everyday lives. Hi, I'm Richard Fontenay, and throughout my career, from studying with Benedictine monks to serving in executive leadership within government, to more than 4 decades of consulting, coaching, and now building an online learning community, I have discovered that confidence is rarely a gift. More often, it is a result of preparation, experience, and a willingness to keep growing. Now, this week's focus is on building confidence, and today we're exploring how confidence can help you step into new opportunities with courage. It's fortunate that we have this topic today because one of the roles I had in our firm is coaching people through the process of transitioning to new employment, whether that be starting a business or moving on to a different place of employment. So this is really relevant to me. You know, confidence is built through action. And one of the greatest misconceptions about confidence is believing that we must feel confident before we act. Think about your own career, for instance. Perhaps you've hesitated before applying for a promotion because you questioned whether you were qualified. Maybe you've delayed sharing a new idea during a meeting because you feared criticism. Or perhaps you've remained in the same role because uncertainty felt more comfortable than change. Now, these moments are more common than we realize. And confidence doesn't usually arrive before the opportunity. And more often, it develops because we choose to accept the opportunity. Every meaningful step stretches us beyond our comfort zone. The first presentation, the first interview, the first leadership role, or the first difficult conversation rarely feels comfortable. Yet each experience expands our capacity and prepares us for the next challenge. And confidence grows one courageous decision at a time. Now, have you had the courage to raise your hand? Early in my consulting work, I often met talented individuals who possessed excellent technical skills, but struggled to advance in their careers. The obstacle was seldom a lack of ability. Instead, they underestimated what they could contribute. When leadership opportunities appeared, they waited for someone else to volunteer. When asked for ideas, they remained silent, convinced that someone more experienced had a better answer. Ironically, organizations are not looking for perfection. They are looking for people who are willing to learn, collaborate, and take responsibility. One simple act, like raising your hand, can change the direction of a career. Not because you know everything, but because you're willing to grow. While confidence requires courage, it also requires preparation. Now, athletes train long before competition. Musicians rehearse before the concert. And pilots spend countless hours in simulation before flying passengers. They also require hundreds of hours practicing flying. Now, this I know because we live close to an airport as budding pilots test their wings. Leadership is no different. It requires preparation. And preparation reduces uncertainty and increases confidence. Now, if you're preparing for an interview, please research the organization. And if you're leading a meeting, anticipate the questions that may arise. And if you're considering a promotion, begin developing the skills the role requires before the opportunity appears. Preparation cannot remove every fear, but it can replace uncertainty with readiness. The more prepared you become, the more confidently you will respond when opportunity knocks. Now, there's another dimension of confidence that is often overlooked. Lasting confidence is rooted in character. People naturally trust leaders who demonstrate integrity, humility, and consistency. They know that such leaders keep their promises, admit mistakes, and continue learning. And career success is rarely determined by talent alone. It is built on relationships, credibility, and trust. And when your confidence is anchored in strong character rather than ego, you become the kind of leader others want to follow. And that kind of confidence grows stronger with every experience. Now, before we continue, why not refresh your coffee or your favorite beverage and take a brief pause? Take a moment to reflect on what we have heard so far. And as I mentioned, this week's focus is on building confidence. Our learning journey this week includes Sunday, the companion article, Confidence Killers, 5 Hidden Habits That Undermine Self-Belief, and that's included in the description below. On Monday, the Listening Heart podcast, Confidence in God's Love, Finding Boldness Through the Love Within. Wednesday, the Coaching Talks podcast, Confidence in Your Career and Step into Opportunities with Courage, and that's this one. And Friday, the Digital Marketing Secrets podcast, Confidence in Your Digital Voice, Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. And Saturday, our eLearning Roundup newsletter, bringing together this week's key insights, practical takeaways, and encouragement. And together, these 5 publications form one integrated learning journey designed to help you grow in business, work, and life. Now, we'll move on to part 2, strategies for overcoming and embracing opportunities while developing the confidence that inspires others. And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. In part 1, we explored an important truth. Confidence is not something we wait for. It is something we develop. We discovered that confidence grows through action, preparation, and character. Now, let's turn our attention to how we can strengthen confidence every day, especially when our inner critic begins to speak louder than our potential. Sometimes we have a nagging voice that holds us back. Now, have you noticed how often we become our own toughest critics? A small mistake suddenly becomes evidence that we're not good enough. A disappointing interview convinces us we'll never get the next opportunity. And constructive feedback feels like a personal failure rather than an invitation to improve. Now, I've coached leaders who managed multi-million-dollar budgets, supervised large teams, and made decisions that affected thousands of people. Yet, many of them privately questioned whether they were capable enough to lead. Their greatest obstacle wasn't external competition. It was the conversation taking place within their own heads. Performance leadership begins by recognizing that voice and refusing to let it become the author of your future. The question isn't whether self-doubt will appear, because it will. The question is whether we'll allow it to make our decisions for us. Someone I know initially let her head story dictate the direction she wanted to take. She didn't feel she was good enough to write a poetry book. And years later, I met up with her, and she presented me with her poetry book. She said, "If it wasn't for you, I would have never written this book." And all she needed was a push in the right direction. And then she took it from there. Another thing is to reframe failure to positive acceptance. One of the greatest confidence builders is learning to redefine failure. Too often, we treat failure as a verdict when it actually is some feedback. Every accomplishment a professional carries is a history of failures. Projects fail, presentations fall flat, ideas are rejected, and promotions go to someone else. What separates resilient leaders isn't the absence of disappointment. It's their willingness to ask, what can I learn from this experience? And that simple question changes everything. Instead of becoming trapped by regret, you begin building wisdom. Instead of protecting your reputation at all costs, you become curious about how to improve. And progress replaces perfection, and growth replaces fear. And then confidence quietly begins to return. Now, have you ever heard of the confidence cycle? Over the years, I've noticed a pattern that appears in almost every successful leader that I've worked with. It follows a simple cycle. First comes preparation. Preparation leads to action. Action builds confidence. And confidence encourages us to accept the next opportunity. And then the cycle begins again. Notice what isn't included. Waiting. Very few careers advance because someone waited until they felt completely ready. Growth belongs to those who prepare well enough to begin and remain teachable along the way. And that leads me to the concept of investing in yourself. Confidence grows when we commit ourselves to continuous learning. Read widely. In fact, read one book a month. Listen carefully. Ask thoughtful questions. And seek mentors who challenge and encourage you. Every book you finish, every course you complete, every meaningful conversation you have that becomes another brick in the foundation of your confidence. The most effective leaders I've known never considered themselves finished learners. Their confidence came from knowing they could continue to grow. And that mindset keeps us humble, adaptable, and ready for whatever comes next. And here's another thing to consider or encourage confidence in others. And performance leadership isn't only about becoming more confident in ourselves, it's also about helping others discover their confidence. Think about the people who may have encouraged you. Perhaps a supervisor believed in your potential before you believed in yourself. Maybe a teacher recognized a gift you hadn't yet discovered. Or a colleague simply said, "I think you can do this." Now, those moments stay with us because confidence often grows in relationships before it grows within us. As leaders, we have the opportunity to create those memorable moments for others. Offer sincere encouragement. Recognize effort as well as achievement. Invite quieter voices into the conversation. And celebrate progress. When we help others succeed, we strengthen the culture of our teams and our organizations. We become servant leaders. Leadership multiplies our confidence rather than competing for our attention. Remember, a career is built one step at a time. Looking back over my own journey, from years with the Benedictines through public service, consulting, teaching, and now developing digital learning, I can see that every new chapter required stepping into uncertainty. There were opportunities I accepted without knowing exactly how everything would unfold. And there were projects that succeeded beyond expectations, and others that taught valuable lessons through disappointment. What sustained me wasn't perfect confidence. It was a willingness to keep learning, trust the process, and take the next step. And that's true for all of us. Confidence isn't a destination we finally reach. It's a companion that grows stronger each time we choose courage over keeping ourselves comfortable. Now, we come to the learning lens. Career confidence is not built by eliminating uncertainty. It is built by responding to uncertainty with preparation, courage, integrity, and a commitment to lifelong learning. The opportunities that shape our future rarely arrive when we feel completely ready. They arrive when we're willing to take the next step, learn from the experience, and continue growing. So choose progress over perfection, and confidence will follow. Now, as you move through this week, ask yourself, what opportunity have I been postponing because I've been waiting to feel more confident? And perhaps today is the day to take that first step. Now, it doesn't have to be a giant leap. It could be a conversation, an application, proposal, but more importantly, a decision. One courageous action can become the beginning of a new chapter in your career. Now, thank you for joining me on Coaching Talks. If this episode encouraged you, I also invite you to read this week's eLearning Leadership Companion, Confidence Killers, 5 Hidden Habits That Undermine Self-Belief. As I mentioned, the link is below. As well, listen to Digital Marketing Secrets on Friday as we explore how to develop confidence in your digital voice and overcome imposter syndrome. Now, until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep growing, because leadership is practiced one conversation, one decision, and one relationship at a time. I'm Richard Fontenay signing off. See you next time, if not before. Bye now.